Alright, so I've had this idea in the works since watching Into the Spider-Verse in my spring break. Like back at like the last week of February. I couldn't help but have the idea to just, bounce around. And now that Dragon Week's done, I couldn't help but, you know, want to make something Star Wars related. And, and because I have a little bit of hype going around on with my Jedi Fallen Order stuff, hopefully going to be coming out soon. I decided, what better way to, get started with this than to put different pop culture characters in the Jedi Fallen Order. So I hope you guys all enjoy, and let's get into the Battle for Kashyyyk, Part 1, with a quick look at our main character. Mission Log 1. My name is Manjaras. I'm a member of the Resistance here on Kashyyyk, and as of late, life hasn't been easy. A few months ago, I was on a team infiltrating an Empire laboratory. We heard that they were experimenting on some of the Wookiee they captured there, and we made our way out to investigate. During the mission, I was attacked by a Wysock, pretty much a massive spider, if that makes more sense to whoever's listening to this. The thing would have likely killed me if it hadn't been for Cal Kestis. That said, the spider definitely left some marks. Later on, during the mission, a purge trooper came at me from behind. The weird thing was, I sensed it coming well before it reached me, and was able to land a blaster shot on it within a few seconds, and the shot surprisingly found a weak spot in the armor. I can't explain how I did it, though Cal suggests I may have picked up on the ripples in the Force. Turns out that spider had been referred to as experiment number 42, and was meant to be sprung on a Wookiee prior to it escaping its containment. The thing was radioactive from prolonged exposure to the last reactor core, but an explosion allowed it to get loose. I don't know if the Wookiee was supposed to get these powers or not, but it turns out that my spider sense thing wasn't the only thing that I could do. Further into the mission, I discovered that I could run and climb on walls and ceilings with minimal effort, practically as though I were walking, which we would later discover I could also do. In addition to that, it seemed I had a biological scalp link of sorts, as I could send out pulses of electricity that could hack and fry terminals and machinery. After the mission, I came to realize that while I had no control over the Force, in the eyes of the Empire, I may as well be a Jedi. So I took to the forge we had in our base and made myself a set of armor. To protect everyone, I will become a pseudo-Mandalorian. And so, let's do this one more time. My name is Manjaras. I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and for the past few months, I've been the galaxy's one and only Spider-Mandalorian. I fight back against the Empire to protect the people of Kashyyyk, and I've had some pretty successful missions. That said, I wasn't able to stop Tarful from getting killed. He had sacrificed himself to save a child from blaster fire, while I had to help evacuate other survivors during an attack on our base. Now we live in even deeper hiding. At least the Onyx Squadron is here to help now. With them, maybe we stand a chance at fighting back. Wow, Sterling wasn't kidding. Keeping a journal really does help calm me down. Feels nice to finally get all that out. What I think I like most about this drawing is the dynamic posing I was able to give Miles, as well as how all the colors seem to complement each other. I will admit, though, that it does feel a bit more like I just kitted Miles out with combat armor as opposed to truly turning him into a Mandalorian. I'm still really happy with how it looks in the end, but I could definitely improve upon it more if I were to do it again. And you might have noticed that I actually pulled in my reference image just to make sure that I had the hand right. I got to work pretty well in the end, but I don't think I would have had much luck without it. I do really enjoy making dynamic poses for my characters. I don't do it with every character, but I wanted to try and do a little bit of that with Spider-Man, since, he's pretty known for those sorts of poses. Um, I like what I was able to achieve with the layering here too. I couldn't get the font to be completely accurate. It's probably just Arial or something, but hey, this looks good. It looks really good, and besides, I don't particularly care for that default font anyways, so yeah, I think it looks great. And the placement behind the character, so you get a bit of it shadowed by Miles' head and the webs, is a nice touch. And yes, I know that Spider-Man doesn't typically use guns, but this is Star Wars here, what did you expect? Anyways, I hope you like this look at our main character for the arc. On to the next one. Life for the third brother was an exciting one. For as long as he could remember, he had been training under Darth Sidious himself. He had been a prodigy in combat and had an uncommon force ability that caught even the Emperor himself off guard. Force Lightning. While many of the users of the dark side may eventually gain this power, none have been shown to develop it as early as the third brother had, as he had it long before the Empire found him and took him in. What's stranger still is that the third brother cannot remember a single event from his life up to a few months prior to the Empire finding him on Endor. Regardless, the third brother quickly took to the ways of the dark side, going from an energetic scavenger to a cold and calculating inquisitor within a matter of days. Perhaps his missing memories played some part in the quick transformation. It is much easier to paint on a blank slate than it is to convert a finished painting. There are few times when the third brother's loyalty is not absolute. However, he has an odd attraction towards flight sims, particularly ones with gunships. This obsession will go as far as to make him pause his other tasks in order to ensure that his high scores are not overridden, assuming he's not engaged in combat at the moment that the score is broken. And, of course, even if he is occupied with another task, however, he will often find the time to rectify what to him must be a slight upon his ego. Despite this, there is little else the Inquisitor loves more than breaking the wills of rebels and rogue Jedi he fights. It's almost as if every ounce of goodness that may have once been in him was shattered. Unfortunately, he has little awareness of this. In truth, the third brother was never truly a scavenger. He was once a Jedi Knight, one with a family and an affinity for a much lesser-known ability called Electric Judgment. This ability is much similar to the Sith power he now uses, but was non-lethal and typically used to subdue targets, rather than outright kill them. It isn't clear how the third brother, or Jay Strider as his family knew him, he got separated from the Jedi, or how he lost his memories. Lacking any direction, however, Palpatine and Vader thought that the former Jedi might provide a unique and devious opportunity. Now, the third brother, or Rogue, is all that remains. No past, no connections. All that remains is darkness and a lust to torture survivors of Order 66. Darker still, Rogue has become so strong with the dark side that his powers make him a rival to even Vader himself. On his current path, the third brother is set to become Grand Inquisitor within the very near future, the exact opposite of everything his lost self once stood for. With the intel regarding an impending uprising on Kashyyyk, led by Jedi and supposed Force sensitive, his next mission could be all it takes for him to achieve that new rank. His true desires are to continue his dark work, but it can be hard to turn down one of the most powerful positions the Empire has to offer. There's little hope of redirecting Strider's path now. My big thing with adapting Rogue was trying to make use of the lore present for him in Dragon's Rising, though it took a bit of a different approach. Season 3 complicated things a little bit, but I think I did a good job of interpreting him into the Star Wars universe. Also, interesting fact, we don't actually know much about the actual third brother. We know he exists, so making Rogue into this supposed character could be a unique way to take Jay and adapt him. If I had to say one thing I liked the most about making the piece, I'd probably have to go with how intimidating I was able to make him look, giving him almost a Death Stare-like kind of pose and adding in the glowing red lenses and sparking electricity, which I actually did some research on to see how I could fit into Star Wars lore. Yeah, just sort of came out great as a whole. I'm honestly really happy with the results I came up with. I hope you guys like this take on Jay too. That said, we're halfway there. Let's see who's up next, shall we? If we attack from the deeper woods, we might have a chance at getting the drop on them, Sagara, one of the lead fighters in Kashyyyk resistance, explained to the table. That region isn't a place that most troopers visit. It's generally a hostile environment, but most of the creatures that would actually qualify as threats don't tend to leave that area. And compared to the other fronts, it's the least heavily guarded. The last time we tried an assault from there, we almost got killed by the local flora and fauna, Manjaras noted. I'm all for getting the drop on them, but this sounds a little too optimistic, even for me. I think it could work, Sterling and Engeal replied. Yeah, we could do it, Onyx and Travis said, but that would be assuming it was just the Onyx Squadron. The 5 of us could handle it. Well, fine, sure, given Miles' spider sense thing, your force abilities, and my skills, Gara could probably get in too, but that still leaves a lot of men to die out there. It'd be a losing battle before it even began. Come on, Mimic, Sterling argued. Have a little faith in the rebels here. A lot of them are tougher than you think. I want to agree with you, Sterling, Miles stated. But I have to side with Mimic on this one. It's not worth the potential cost. Then we divide and conquer. Mimic, Gara, and I can lead one group, and Miles, Grace, and Raph can lead the other. That sounds slightly less suicidal, Mimic shrugged. I prefer to fight alongside my men and where they need the most help, Gara decided. But I did have something like this in mind. Additionally, having 2 assault forces may give us better results and would be an easier way to organize. So I take it that this is our plan? Cool, Miles nodded. Let's go avenge Tarful. It was playing meetings like this where Sterling and Engeal's knack for optimism came in handy. Even when the odds of success seemed stacked against them, he looked on with a smile and assurance that they would come out on top. It was this outlook on life that earned him the respect of his crew, the Onyx Squadron, even if he could sometimes be a bit too optimistic for his own good. Unlike most Jedi, Sterling wasn't nearly as paranoid when it came to the dark side as others. He acknowledged the fact that the Empire was bad for the galaxy and intended to put a stop to it. But he also believed that not everyone involved was necessarily a bad person. His biggest point towards this was the second sister, otherwise known as Trilla. Her time being tortured by the Empire and being brought to the dark side to cloud her vision, but she gave Cal the holocron for him to safeguard from the Empire, promptly getting killed by Vader, but she proved to be a hero in the end. Not everyone was convinced that those in the Empire could ever change, and to some extent they were right. But it was hard to deny that Sterling had a point. Not everyone on the Empire, on the dark side, was truly evil. Sterling gained this life philosophy from his idol, Qui-Gon Jinn. Jinn, too, was a believer that the dark side held some light. As far as Sterling knew, the late Master never tapped into its power, but his outlook on emotions and the Force greatly shaped Sterling's own philosophy. Adding to his confidence was his interest in experimenting with the things the Force could do and what he could do with it. Amongst other things, Sterling had found a way to generate a personal force field of sorts. He could shift this force barrier around his body to block attacks while he fought. He couldn't maintain the power when his body got too cold, but he was working on building his cold tolerance to help him maintain it longer. And if that wasn't enough, he managed to pick up a jetpack during a trip to Coruscant a few years back. All in all, compared to the other survivors of Order 66, Sterling was probably the least broken. Secretly, though, his squadron wonders just how long until reality catches up to him. Unfortunately, it might end up happening sooner than they would have anticipated. Alright, so for those of you who don't follow Popcraft Studios on YouTube, first, what the heck are you doing? Go and check out the guy's stuff once you're done here. That said, Sterling Engeal is probably the most like me out of everyone in Multiverse Tales, and not just because he has a lot of apparent visual similarities to my superhero persona, the Silver Ninja. Similarities I discovered when working on this, and I was like, oh, dang, wow, this actually wasn't all that different from drawing my OC. Sterling is an incredibly kind and optimistic person, really. Though he has also been shown to harbor a darker side on an occasion that can crack through. He has a knack for helping others and being a good leader out in the field when Alexis isn't around. One of my biggest inspirations for getting into YouTube to do the stuff I'm doing here today was Christian Pearson and his story and speed paint videos. So I wanted to work a bit of his stuff into this whole fan project thing, and out of all the characters that made sense to turn into a Jedi that he has made over the years, Sterling seemed the most fitting. Here's hoping that he can give Miles the push he needs to keep fighting after whatever results from our upcoming battle, I will be telling that battle in the second and final part of the story, whenever that happens. With that being said, why don't we get to one of the other members of Sterling's Onyx Squadron, shall we? Mimic's log. 2 days until my new life begins. I don't know why I'm recording this. The less anyone can use to trace me, the better, but what do I care? I'm gonna be a mercenary out for hire anyway. Even if someone wanted to track me, I doubt they'd have much luck, especially given my tech and skills as a stealth operative. I suppose I should give some background. The name is Octus and Travis, call sign Mimic, or soon to be formally Onyx 4. At the time of recording this, I'm just outside of a rebel camp on Kashyyyk. They're preparing for an assault on an Empire base out here, but let's be real. Either way, they're doomed to fail. I specialize in infiltration. You want something stolen from a place, I can disguise myself as anyone who might be able to get in there without so much as the bat of an eye. No need for Jedi mind tricks when you can look like anyone in the galaxy you've seen before. On top of that, if I ever do get into a fight, I've got no qualms about killing my aggressors. So yeah, as far as anyone will be concerned after this raid, I'm a merc for hire who can steal literally anything or kill anyone you need me to, so long as you can pay my price. I suppose you could say I orchestrated my rise to the morally gray life of a bounty hunter. You wouldn't be wrong either, seeing as I've been feeding the Empire intel on this little uprising. Am I betraying my crew? Maybe. Yeah, I'm familiar with that sort of thing anyways. Not that it truly counts as a betrayal if the people you're working alongside never cared for you in the first place. Sure, the Onyx Squadron looks nice on the outside, but deep down they're just like everyone else in this galaxy. Self-centered. No one here cares, and those who do, who would quickly stop after enough trauma or simply being given reason to. We all wear a porcelain facade, a mask, if you will. Most people don't notice it. Me? I revel in it. There's no point in doing anything else. Whether you let that mask slip, whenever that mask slips, you're judged for it. You get looked at as a monster. Society can be pretty hypocritical. After this is over, though, who cares what society thinks of me? If this was going to anyone, I'd say see you on the other side. The beautiful thing is, it's not. This is Mimic, signing off. So, when I was working on Mimic's adaptation for this story, I ended up running out of storage space thanks to how I was recording my videos. Doing a screen recording takes up a lot of space that my iPad, which I do all of my digital art stuff on, just couldn't handle. So I quickly discovered that I had to pivot how I got my footage. Thankfully, Procreate had me covered. Not only does it allow me to record my drawing process for instant playback once the piece is complete, it also allows me to export that playback with a significantly smaller file size, no less. In short, a basic feature of Procreate single-handedly saved this video, and many others for down the line. So, yeah, that's a big reason why the video has been formatted the way it has, in case you've been wondering why it's been different from my Dragon Week video, which was one straight recording. Anywho, about Mimic, he was probably the simplest of all the characters I did here, but I don't think that was a bad thing at all. Well, I wanted to try and experiment a bit as well. You see, Mimic is a pretty dark character, both mentally, as seen in the IDW 2024 annual, and visually. So I thought that using line work as opposed in white color as opposed to my typical black would make for an interesting piece. I think that was the right call too, because it really upped the mystery and almost alien nature of his design. Speaking of the annual, the backstory we got from Mimic and how he met the Diamond Cutters played a big part in how I wrote him for the story. Mimic's worldview is such a drastic departure from Sterling's, making the two even more perfect foils than Sterling and Dresden in Multiverse Tales. He is very cynical and views everyone as wearing a mask, and he won't hesitate to abandon those he once associated with should things get tough. That darkness makes him a very intriguing character for me. I can't wait to see what Ian Flynn and all the others at IDW do with him for his and Whisper's final confrontation down the line in a few more issues. Also, funny thing, when I was watching my playback, I noticed I hadn't actually colored his bag or belt in. That bothered me for a little bit until I took another look at the drawing. The colors overall, that were there, actually made it look a bit more natural, so I decided I'd stick with it. So I guess to end things off here today, I want you to think about how not all mistakes can be bad things. Some can bring about really cool things that make the whole feel much better than if it were quote-unquote perfect. That's the beauty of human artwork. Our mistakes can be the places where the magic truly shines through. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the story so far, and I will see you next time for more Star Wars related content. Coming soon. Bye-bye.